Welcome everyone to another airline crewing and operations Enigma session. My name is Daniel Stecher. I'm very delighted to have the almost last session of the year 2025 for this great community. And today we turn a bit the perspective because usually we have crew planners, we have operations controllers, so the people sitting in the OCC presenting their experience. And today we have a flight attendant from the US, Alba Alonso, formerly working for a very well-known US airline as a flight attendant. And she is going to talk about crew planning, the culture, and operation excellence from her perspective. Will be very insightful. I know her. She is very energetic. And all of you are invited to ask a lot of questions. I will help her because she's focusing now on her presentation. And so if you have a question, either you just scream in or you raise your hand and then I will call you in. So carpe diem, make use of the time. I think we have 45, 60 minutes roundabout. Stage is yours, Alba.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you, everybody. My name is Alba Alonso. And like Daniel said, I worked for a U.S. ultra low-cost carrier for the last 3 years, and we went through the same ups and downs as I hear a lot of airlines go through. And these are my observations. I joined Daniel's group a little bit ago and was very interested in hearing what the crew planners and crew schedulers were doing around the world and wanted to put in my 2 cents. So if you could focus on the presentation, I'm more than happy to email it to you. There is quite a bit of content. I'm going to read most of it so that I can stay on track. And before I go to the next slide, I will ask if there's any questions. So thank you so much. So as a new member to the group, I'm eager to dive into the subject from the perspective of a cabin crew member, specifically a flight attendant, while also keeping a broader lens on how planning decisions ripple outward to operations, IT, crew control, and ultimately the airline's bottom line. In today's airline environment, every division, IT, crew planning, cabin, flight crew, network operations control, and finance is interlinked. The decisions made in one area seldom stay in one silo. For example, the choice to grant crew members broad flexibility in bidding or dropping schedules may improve individual satisfaction in the short term, but it can also trigger downstream costs in standby reserve staffing.
One quick question, Alba, you can share your presentation because we only see you now.
Oh.
Not your slide, yeah, but it's good to see you. That's good. But
thank you.
Yeah. Sorry for cutting in, but
tell me,
I thought it's better. I'm seeing primarily you.
Let me share the screen again. Maybe it came off. Thank you for letting me know. Share the screen. We'll do that again. Share the screen. How about that?
No, it's way better.
You see the presentation. Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. The presentation is way better. Thank you. Okay. As I was saying, decisions made in one area seldom stay in one silo. For example, the choice to grant crew members broad flexibility in bidding or dropping schedules was something that I heard in the last Enigma meeting. Dropping schedules may improve individual satisfaction in the short term, but it can also trigger downstream costs in standby, reserve staffing, disruptions, low morale, and lost revenue. As Daniel points out in his article, Unraveling the Mysteries, A Crew Planner's Guide to Crew Management in our think tank group, cruise costs are the second highest expense after fuel, and so fairness, optimization, and data-driven decision-making must be woven into a credible solution. From a flight attendant's vantage point, I will highlight where gaps often appear when senior crew members backed by unions secure privileges that seem to align more with tenure than equal opportunity, and how this can lead to unintended adverse impacts on junior crew, the company's operational integrity, and ultimately profit margins. The goal isn't to diminish anyone's contribution or undermine seniority as a factor, because seniority does have value, but rather to ensure the system remains equitable, efficient, and aligned with the company's need to remain financially healthy, while valuing all employees and enabling them to pay their bills and work under a consistent framework of fairness. So in short, my analysis will cover where the gap lies between what crew bidding systems promise, flexibility and lifestyle, and what operations actually need: cover, reliability, and cost control. When one department or group is prioritized, giving senior flight attendants more drop bid flexibility And the downstream effects are increased reserve costs, scheduling complexity, flight delays, morale issues among crew, and of course, erosion of financial margins. So what operational integrity should look like? A system which all crew, regardless of tenure, have access to making a living rather than surviving, and prioritizing rest, recovery for everyone, and all within a framework that aligns with the company's productivity, fairness, cost control, and mission critical reliability. What better uses exist for company resources instead of absorbing costs from imbalances in crew scheduling? For instance, investing in optimized software tools, as Daniel highlights, optimizers rather than automation for crew planning, training, fatigue risk management to protect safety and limit costly disruptions, and other productivity tools rather than just giving more schedule flexibility to one group, like seniority. How unions also, seniority and junior crew rights intersect. We're going to talk about this, acknowledging that senior flight attendants have built up tenure and rightly earn higher pay, but ensuring that this does not create a system in which junior crew are left with fewer desirable options, greater burdens, and less voice, which can depress morale, increase turnover, and erode culture and efficiency. I believe that only by presenting the entire ecosystems, IT systems, crew planning, bidding schedules, operations control, cost management, and human factors, can we make a compelling justification for investment in better software and processes that truly close the gap. And finally, I will propose what a balanced, fair, operational sound state looks like. So,
by the way, we still see operational reality slide.
Yes, I'm going to switch it in just a minute.
Okay. I'm just making sure that you're not already on slide number 10.
Yeah, it's 10 slides, but it's a lot of reading, so bear with me. After reviewing, again, Daniel's different airline crew planning methodologies, airline crewing Enigma expert panel discussion, I'd like to contribute my insight from the lens of a flight attendant, focusing on people, processes, and change management rather than technology as a whole. In my view, several oversights have led airlines down the wrong rabbit hole when it comes to crew planning and operational alignment. So I'll be addressing what senior versus junior flight attendants are really saying on the aircraft and why those conversations matter, what senior flight attendant-led unions may be overlooking in their approach, what crew planning should look like from a true business and operational perspective, how the bottom line could improve if training is aligned with the realities of the job, the impact of transparent communication between leadership, pilots, and flight attendants on morale and performance, the long-term cost of not addressing the entitlement mindset that has quietly taken root among crew members. Whoop, that went too much. So my agenda is going to cover why this conversation matters, training, first responders in the sky, seniors versus juniors, equal needs, different realities, collective bargaining agreement reform, crew planning, a business view, opportunities in crew planning, reform recommendations, and the bottom line. So why this conversation matters. I know there's a lot on there, but I'm going to cover each one of them individually. So let's take a look at it for 1 second and see what the topics are. Senior versus junior flight attendants, reserve flight attendants, striking a financial balance, the divide us versus them, the missed opportunities, age range of flight attendants is 21 to 70-year-olds, and the location is worldwide. So why does this matter? Okay, you all know a lot of this information, so I'm just going to go to this heading and go straight to why it matters. Senior to junior hierarchy. The topic here is line holder versus awarded line. Why it matters. Senior flight attendants build predictability and work-life balance. Juniors rarely have a choice in pairings. A senior flight attendant may drop a trip directly to a reserve flight attendant. Awarded trips or known flying 1 to 6 day pairings. Why it matters? Well, it determines the fatigue levels, the layovers, and the personal time, increasing costs to airlines. Relief lines, secondary or composite lines, as might be called in other airlines. Why it matters? It offers partial stability with some leftover flying opportunities to the junior flight attendants. Open time or open flying. Why it matters? Keeping operations staff while giving flexibility to motivated crew. The reality is that all flights will be covered one way or the other. Everyone is motivated for different reasons. Some FAs are working 110 to 150 hours, earning over $100,000 a year, while others can't even make the minimum guaranteed requirements, and they're earning $30,000 a year. Trade border trip swaps. What it is, sometimes FAs will actually pay someone to pick up a trip. So is it really fair to have full freedom to have your scheduling? Why it matters. It enables customization of schedules. The system enables customization of schedules and helps balance work-life commitments and financial needs for some, but not all. Base swaps, why it matters. It affects commuting, family stability, and quality of life. International airlines often have fewer and more rigid base options, I hear. Schedule adjustments, move up lines or movables, why it matters. There's a small chance for juniors to move up in the quantity of trips during reassignment of rebids. Reserve flight attendants, why it matters. Well, we create operational flexibility, but it also leads to fatigue because of the uncertainty, the erratic predictability, and frustration when FAs are called to come from their homes to fill a need, while they're also reserve flight attendants on already set assignments that are never used. Okay, duty period flexibility. What is the control level is very systemic, and it should not be a preferential system, in my opinion. This comes at the expense of more junior and the company. Why it matters. It impacts rest, performance, and safety. Often a key tension point between crew planning and crew well-being. Stacking 150 hours for one flight attendant in 1 month is not healthy. Working less than 75 is not sustainable for junior flight attendants. So international airlines, I agree. I love that there's less bidding autonomy. Many rely on centralized rostering with limited employee control. Request systems, crews can request destinations or days off, but management makes the final schedule. What senior and junior flight attendants are really saying and why it matters. Crew planning often looks great on paper, balanced pairings, legal rest, and coverage. But inside the aircraft, the conversations tell a different story. Senior flight attendants say, I've earned my time. I've been here 20 years. I've done my time on reserve. I've missed holidays and I've paid my dues. I'm not giving up my weekends or my cushy turns now. They keep changing the system, and every upgrade just takes away control from those of us who invested our lives here. Why should I train or mentor someone who will quit in 6 months? That's not my job. So what they mean is they're protecting the predictability and control that seniority gives them. Often the only stability in a demanding lifestyle. But this mindset can unintentionally block change and widen the gap between junior and senior crew. What's the management takeaway? If crew planning and change management don't educate the senior mamas and papas, as we call them, early and respectfully, they'll resist every system update, no matter how efficient it looks on paper. This leads to a fear-based, employee-led decision. Interestingly, seniors will not leave in fear of losing their hard-earned pay and will not want to start from the bottom at another airline and be treated like they treat juniors. Junior flight attendants, they say, I can't live like this forever. By the time open time drops, it's gone. The trips are gone. I feel like I'm on survival mode every month. I love the job, but it's impossible to grow when senior crew treats us like we haven't earned the right to breathe yet. It is not that I don't care, it's that I am exhausted and broke. What they mean, they're not resistant to the airline. They're overwhelmed by a system that feels stacked against them. Reserve life, inconsistent rest, and unpredictable income drive burnout and high turnover. What's the management takeaway? Crew planning needs to strike a balance between loyalty and opportunity, protecting the benefits of seniority pay while ensuring that entry-level positions are sustainable and motivating. After all, there are no guarantees that a more senior flight attendant will get home any sooner than a junior crew will.
When you say management, is it the management of the airline or is it the management of the union you are referring to? Because my understanding is the seniority principle is also mainly driven from the union. So it's the union to agree on a different collective bargaining agreement and say, okay, now we do fair share, no matter how old somebody is, everything is treated equally. But my understanding is The
I will cover.
older are not very open for this because they think I've earned this and my seniority is the holy grail, because it's also determining whether I get my private flight before somebody being younger in the company. So that's why the seniority principle is so important for this private travel.
I will address that because I did work for the union for a short time, and I got to see the ins and outs of it to an extent. And I've also been very connected with corporate. I was not just a flight attendant. I really enjoy understanding how all the different departments work together. And the company that I work for gave us that opportunity through their diversity groups, but I will get to that. So I am going to go run through these next 3 pages really fast because you probably don't know all the things that flight attendants have to train and why a junior and a senior flight attendants are equal in position. It's really only tenure that says the difference, and the pay scale. Okay, in-flight training overview, and I'm Spanish, so I apologize. I'm going to read really fast. In-flight training overview, 4 to 7 weeks. In-flight training is a rigorous full-time program that equips new flight attendants with the knowledge, skills, and certification required to operate safely and professionally on board. Training is typically 6 days a week, conducted at airlines headquarters or a dedicated learning center. FAs remain on site until completion. Safety and emergency procedures. This is the foundation of in-flight training and occupies the largest portion of the program. Trainees learn and practice first responder training, aircraft safety equipment, evacuation procedures, ditching and raft deployment, firefighting, and smoke-filled cabin. Whoop. What's behind there? Cabin drills, CPR, AED, choking response, and medical protocols. My favorite one, bomb relocation. Decompression scenarios, handling turbulence and preventing injuries, security threats, self-defense basics, and threat recognition, crew resource management. Then there's aircraft familiarization. Trainees study the airline's aircraft type through hands-on and simulator training. They learn door, window, slide operations, jump seat procedures, galley systems, cabin lighting, interphones, oxygen systems, equipment, pre-flight inspections, positions of responsibility, service standards in our products. Trainees learn to deliver the airline service standards through service routine and standards, point of sales, onboard sales, credit card applications, Wi-Fi, specials, premium cabin expectations, loyalty programs, customer interaction, communications, conflict resolution methods, specials, disabled passengers, allergies, pet, unaccompanied minors, LEOs, armed, etc. Policies and compliance. Trainees must match with the airline's regulatory and operational requirements, FAA rules, international operations, sensitive security information, duty rest regulations, reporting and safety documentations, SRS, RORs, ASAPs, uniform and grooming standards, company and union policies. 5, instructional learning, how aviation works. This section uses PowerPoints and videos to teach foundational aviation knowledge, such as how planes fly, lift, thrust, drag, weight, and basic aerodynamics. Aircraft design basics, wings, control services, engine flaps, landing gear, how weather affects flight, wind shear, turbulence, icing storms, historical aviation accidents presenting to explain, how errors or failures occurred, what regulatory changes resulted, how today's safety procedures were built from past lessons, companies, network, and fleet. This knowledge helps flight attendants understand why safety procedures exist, not just how to perform them. 6, drills, assessments, and daily evaluations. Training includes multiple written tests, usually requiring 90% to pass, practical graded evaluations on door, slides, rafts, CPR, fire response, medical equipment, and bomb relocation, my favorite one again, security and medical simulations, final comprehensive exam and aircraft checkouts. Failure to meet standards often result in dismissal from the training program. Graduation and IOE, initial operating experience. After classroom and simulator completions, trainees complete 1 to 3 supervised flights. For us, it was 5 hours in flight. Demonstrate safety and service skills in real conditions. Upon completions, they officially earn their wings. Once a year, all junior and senior annual recurrent training. All flight attendants, regardless of years of experience, must complete pass an intensive annual 2 to 3 day refresher course, commonly known as recurrent to us. This training includes updated safety procedures, emergency drills, written exams, hands-on evaluation, and aircraft requalifications to maintain FAA certifications. All flight attendants, regardless of experience levels, are trained and evaluated on the same critical skill sets. Ultimately, the airline will be measured by our guest satisfaction and in-flight crew dynamics. All right, any questions so far? Anything new to you all?
If you have to summarize the most important 3 tasks of a flight attendant, what would you list are the top 3?
I would say safety, of course, crew relationships, because that's what provides us quality of life. And that's what's going to reflect the brand to our guests.
Okay, so that is number one is
Safety,
always mentioned.
always
Yeah,
safety. Always safety.
but when if you are now again rephrase this, how often you needed to apply number one and how often you needed to apply number two and number three. So maybe because we all stick to safety, but not on every flight. Of course, you will say, I will show you the emergency exits and so on. But this is only in an let's say disaster situation
That's the
necessary. So that
perception, Daniel. That's the perception. From the moment our guests are coming in the door, we are looking for security issues, and they occur, and we are made aware of it, and we're prepared to remove guests from the moment they're walking in. When the doors are closed, now we don't have the support, and that's why I put first responder, because as you saw, we don't have the support. Once the doors close, we don't have the support of outside personnel to deal with the matters at hand. And even though, let's say it's 10% of the time, we have to keep watch over everybody. And it is intense. It's when you let down your guard that things happen. Somebody goes into the bathroom. That's why I went through the trouble of putting 3 pages of a 10-page presentation to show the level of, and then there are a lot of areas that there's opportunity for improvement, de-escalation training, personal self defense, that are not covered because there's just not enough time. And so if we are not in control, and I could tell you many stories, as you've seen just a few on our chats, that if we're not in control of the cabin at all times, it can get out of hand real quick. So even though people take for granted that things are going great, everybody's sitting, everybody's sleeping, no, we are a watchful eye. The reason why fatigue is so important is that the airline cannot afford for us to be fatigued. They cannot afford. It is the greatest overlooked need in this industry. And the whole reason why I'm doing this presentation is to follow your lead in the importance of taking the human aspect of this and making changes. And for us, for the flight attendants, we might all be equally tired, but this flight attendant, as you saw, we all have to have the same skill set. This flight attendant is making 3, 4, 5 times more than this one. And this area quits. And I'm going to cover that, how this impacts the bottom line.
I think what I also somehow see as an white spot in the industry, and again, I'm then an outsider just reading what's going on there and there. So I'm reading more issues about, let's say, passenger fights in the cabin or even at the counter, more from, let's say, low-cost airlines who fly to leisure destinations where people already come half drunk or almost drunk to their flight. I'm not reading this on business destination trips where people have maybe a different point of view. What do they want to experience on the flight? Is it maybe even unfair that flight attendants working for a low-cost airline are even not so well paid, whereas their pressure to keep the safety towards these potentially more unruly passengers is even more required compared to a legacy airline where the typical flyer is more calm and not so unruly like for low-cost airlines?
I will say 3 numbers: 911, 9/11. The planes that went down were legacy carriers. The planes that were used against our country were legacy carriers. So there is no such thing as, let's say, profiling an airline because of the destination. Absolutely not. You never know. So that was huge for our country. And now we have, there used to be cameras in front of the cockpit towards the aircraft, the body of the aircraft. Now they just have bulletproof doors. So there's a lot that goes behind that people are not aware. And I personally, I'm invested in the future to train flight attendants, airlines, on how to help prevent costly mistakes because we're not trained well enough in de-escalation training. And I already have my curriculum created. I just need to create some videos, but it is people, you see the face here. So let's talk about the slide. In the photo, it says senior flight attendant, 10-year line holder. This is very low pay, 55 to 65. I've heard $95 an hour. Let's say this flight attendant, she is angry. She's looking at, why are you so happy? You're junior, less than 3 years, making less than $30,000 a month, less than what probably a college student makes out of college. Now, let's look at the lady on the right-hand side. I have met these people before. The lady on the right is 55 years old. That's how old I am. She was a former FBI agent, and she's so happy to be doing this job. The lady on the left has been working, and we have somebody like that in our company. Has been working for the company for 25 years, and she has the same skill sets, and she makes more money, and she racks 150 hours a week, and she makes all the other crew feel less than. I'll just keep it to that point, okay? So it's about, and I have the plan here of how you can improve that situation and make the most out of this so that there is not one dissatisfied and one satisfied. So, all right, equal needs, unequal opportunities. Equal needs, different access. Both the 3-year and 10-year flight attendant needs to pay rent or mortgage, supporting family or personal obligations, maintain professional ethical standards, manage rest, fatigue, and well-being. The company needs both to perform at equal standards. Safety, same safety briefings, same FAA compliance, same service expectations, same customer impact. Yet only one of them has a predictable schedule and income. The other lives in uncertainty, which increases turnover and burnout, all of which costs the company far more than shared opportunity would. I'm going to get to the union question that you had, which was spot on. Okay, so we've got the pay. You all know the lead flight attendant or more senior flight attendant has premium trips, which actually cost the company more by stacking more senior flight attendants and trips rather than combining and sharing those type of trips, etc. All right, equal needs. Okay, the missed advantage. Did I miss that? No. New and motivated flight attendants. Like I said, this 55-year-old new flight attendant who is an FBI retiree. We are hidden assets that most airlines underutilize. When given access to premium or higher block trips traditionally reserved for senior crew, the more junior flight attendants bring renewed energy and professionalism to long-haul and high-visibility routes. Reduce fatigue-related sick calls by balancing workload distribution. Lower the company's overtime and reserve utilization cost. Improve morale and perception of fairness. So incentivizing performance, not just tenure. This can improve retention by up to 20 to 30%. This is where the company starts saving money. Based on industry-wide workforce studies in comparable seniority-based sectors, allowing a blend of senior and junior crew on premium and long duration trips isn't just fair, it's financially strategic. We're still on this one. Operational and financial benefits. Reduction of sick calls. Juniors are eager to work, mixing crew spread workloads and reduce burnout. Lower reserve costs, fewer last minute reassignments and hotel expenses. Skills transfer. Seniors model best practices on high-stake trips, accelerating junior competence. And I'll talk about that in a minute, how we can encourage that. Cultural cohesion reduces us versus them, tension on board, and builds mutual respect. Improved service consistency. Mixed crews deliver balance, experience meets enthusiasm. Long-term savings, reduce attrition and training costs for replacement because each new FA costs $20,000 to $30,000 to onboard and train and let go. In short, every flight attendant has the same financial needs, but not the same access to stability. The company needs both senior wisdom and junior energy, equally qualified, equally expected, equally accountable. Rewarding motivation and inclusion, not just longevity, creates a healthier, more sustainable operation. Okay, let's talk about what the senior flight attendant led unions may be overlooking. Senior flight attendant led unions. Unions exist to protect and represent all flight attendants, regardless of tenure. Yet, in practice, many union structures have evolved to reflect the priorities of their most senior members. Most union leaders have 5 or more years of service and often shift from active flying to union duties. While described as a volunteer role, these positions are frequently compensated through union dues, often under a per diem or stipend arrangements funded by all flight attendants, including the most junior members. As I said, I was in the union for a short period. I did social media. This dynamic can unintentionally skew advocacy towards senior interests, leaning newer crew members feeling underrepresented and undervalued. This is what the talk is in the cabin. Okay, where has the focus drifted? Too often, unions' efforts prioritize expanding seniority-based benefits, vacation bidding, trip preferences, and scheduling rights, while missing the opportunity to strengthen the airline's operational and cultural foundation. Instead of solely fighting for more based on tenure, unions could create greater long-term value by focusing on the operational reality, recognizing the day-to-day scheduling challenges faced by crew planning and bridging communication gaps between scheduling, in-flight, and union teams. Attrition cost awareness, supporting initiatives that retain new hires, reducing costly turnover and training cycles. Cultural unity, actively dismantling the us versus them mentality, whether seniors versus juniors, employee versus company, or crew scheduling versus in-flight. Positive culture building, promoting teamwork and morale so that the airline isn't just surviving operationally, but thriving financially and culturally. The company that I work for is in that position right now and has asked the crew, the union, to please agree for the crew to take a pay cut from flight attendants to pilots. And I believe the leadership also took a pay cut. That should not happen. So what could progress look like? A forward-thinking union strategy could align advocacy with shared success, both for the flight attendants and for the airline's financial stability. Honestly, if the company goes down, nobody's going to be employed. So key opportunities include negotiating for enhanced pay structures that benefit all, maybe per diem increases, boarding pay, language pay, sick pay, additional incentive programs, or encouraging peer, and this is big for me, encouraging peer-to-peer reviews or recognition programs that highlight professionalism, teamwork, and service excellence. This hold the flight attendants accountable for how they connect with one another. Reducing the economic gap between junior and senior crew members to build financial security across workforce through the amount of hours that they're allocated, not necessarily pay the seniors less money and the juniors more. Of course, we'd like to do that, but just giving the junior an opportunity to earn more working hours while the seniors are stacking an unbelievable amount of hours, as I mentioned earlier. Advocating for career development pathways and mentoring systems that help new crew members succeed long-term instead of cycling through attrition. Promoting shared accountability and pride, positioning flight attendants as ambassadors of the airline brand, not adversaries of corporate leadership, which is how they view the company. And that's not healthy for anybody. So a little give and take. True union leadership means balancing protection with progress. It means understanding that supporting junior flight attendants doesn't diminish seniority, it strengthens the profession. When unions prioritize fairness, unity, and operational partnerships over rigid hierarchy, they create an environment where everyone benefits. The company remains financially healthy, crews experience better morale and pride in their company, and the union fulfills its purpose, representing every flight attendant with integrity, not just who have earned their wings longer. A little give and take goes a long way, and the airlines that embrace the mindset will be the ones still standing strong when the next wave of industry challenges hits. So what are the senior flight attendant-led unions overlooking in their approach? Unions are designed to represent and advocate for all flight attendants, regardless of tenure and seniority. However, many current union structures, often led by flight attendants with 5 or more years, risk unintentionally prioritizing senior-based concerns over the broader needs of the workforce. While union leadership positions are often labeled as volunteer roles, the leaders are compensated. I already said that. Key areas, I already said that. Apologize. I'm just going to skip that. Okay. Ultimately, the goal should not be simply to protect the benefits for a few, but to create sustainable progress for everyone. Anchored in fairness and oversight goes a long way. United crew, enhancing morale, and ensuring long-term stability for both the flight attendants and the airlines they represent. Any questions?
Not from me.
All right, this is just pictures. What crew planning should look like from a business perspective. I'm going to be respectful of the time. From a business standpoint, effective crew planning is not just about filling flights. It's about strategically aligning human capital with operational performance and financial sustainability. Airlines succeed when their crews are not only adequately staffed, but also motivated, rested, and supported in ways that optimize both service delivery and retention. So what are some key business priorities for crew planning? Okay, data-driven staffing models. Airlines should leverage predictive analytics to anticipate scheduling demands, sick calls, and reserve utilization. Data-informed planning prevents both overstaffing and understaffing, reducing fatigue and morale issues while controlling costs. That's you all's wheelhouse right there. Retention-driven scheduling. High turnover rates in the first 2 years of employment can increase operational costs by up to 30%. Again, based on workforce studies in a comparable seniority-based sector. Crew planning should incorporate flexibility, mentorship pairings, and schedule stability to retain talent longer. So cross-departmental coordination. Crew planning must align closely with in-flight operations, HR, and training teams to forecast staffing needs more accurately and ensure new hires are fully supported. Balanced workload distribution, prioritizing fairness in trip assignments and schedule quality across tenure levels promotes crew harmony and mitigates seniority fatigue. Predictability is desired but not guaranteed. I promise you, if somebody can get 150 hours, they will load up their schedule and then they take like 2 weeks off the fatigue is ridiculous. When done right, crew planning becomes a strategic advantage, reducing operational friction, improving morale, and enhancing profitability. Airlines that recognize flight attendants as both brand ambassadors and operational assets position themselves for long-term success in an increasingly competitive industry. So what are some opportunities for crew planning? Crew planning is often treated as a logistical function, assigning flights, tracking rest, and ensuring compliance. In reality, crew planning has potentials for inefficiencies, reduces morale, and can cost the airline both operationally and financially. We talk about it in the people, I don't talk about crew planning, but in the aircraft, that's what the majority of the conversation is about. And this inefficiencies reduces morale and can cost the airline both operationally and financially. The crew scheduling tools already have enough freedom built in, and if they don't, they should, for genuine schedule creativity and expression. Personal expression, meaning the company gets to express what their operational needs are first, not each individual. If you think about it, we only have 5,000 flight attendants in the airline that I work for, and we can't just meet the needs of 100 flight attendants because they're top, or 1,000. They're actually costing the company more because they are paid more on an hourly basis than the more junior. So if you can combine those two so that it could be more efficient, then that would be ideal. So some of the opportunities would be overly complex preferential bidding, adding preferential bidding layers on top of existing bid systems, line awards, open trade wars create unnecessary complexity. And the flight attendants are still dropping their entire line to rebuild it. So the airline's going through all this trouble to help them get their preference, and they're still dropping it. They're selling trips on social media. It's not working. It's not working. Prioritizing personal preferences, days off, preferred layovers, as I heard, I can't believe that's even a thing. Specific pairings beyond standard seniority systems consumes schedulers' time and introduces inequity. It is a statistical impossibility that the system can please even the top 25% of crew members. And why should it? The priority is operational need. That's what we hear all the time. And sustainability. The impact. Crew schedulers spend hours resolving petty complaints from the crew members, refusing assignments or calling in for whatever, instead of focusing on the essential operations needs like transportation, lodging, and covering unexpected absences. And I shared with this in one of the posts with Daniel. Sometimes the crew is stuck somewhere in Cancun if you can look that up, and they're waiting for a hotel, but all the crew schedulers are too busy dealing with petty stuff, future planning rather than the current planning. No, I'm not blaming the crew planning. It is the flight attendants that are creating all of this, operational lag, let's say. There's a lack of digital sick or fatigue reporting. What do I mean? I'm sure there's a reporting, but crew members currently must call in and submit forms for sick or fatigue reports, which is slow, has a potential for misunderstanding, and adds a string of unnecessary communications, and is often inconsistent. Why is it important to have a track record? Because the solution is, let's say, it's a text-based reporting system that allows the crew to report sick, fatigue, and the reason for not reporting to duty. Now, the system, ideal world, can automatically track patterns of misuse or excessive unplanned absences. And if you can create at a glance chart for each crew member, that's even better. So what about unlimited? The system has unlimited non-emergency pass days. Current practices allow pilots and crew to skip trips without sufficient oversight. I pass, I don't want to go to work. Impact creates operational gaps, forces last-minute reserve usage, and increases grounding expenditures, overtime, hotels costs, not to mention the cost of guest dissatisfaction. The solution, limit excused non-sick fatigue passes to a defined number of per month, per quarter, or per year. Number 4, insufficient peer feedback mechanisms. Crew performance is rarely reviewed in real time. We are unsupervised employees, unsupervised. So feedback is delayed or anecdotal, which reduces accountability and professional development. The solution would be to enable immediate post-trip peer review via text or an app, including optional comment fields to provide actionable insights and reinforce team accountability. And just like the guest satisfaction is taken over a range of 3 months, the flight attendants, I've already heard this argument, the flight attendants say, well, what if the crew didn't like me for 4 days? It doesn't matter. You're going to be in front of different crew, and there will be an average of how likable you are, basically, and if you're doing your job well. Inconsistent trip assignment and fairness. Line holders, reserves, and new hires often experience unequal access to desirable trips, leading to resentment and morale issues, as discussed earlier. Solution, use rotation-based algorithms that balance seniority, experience, and motivation while giving newer crew members exposure to higher value trips. Manual communication bottlenecks. Crew schedulers spend excessive time on phone calls or emails handling minor disputes, again, crew's fault, leaving less time for critical operational support like transportation, lodging, and staffing. The solution, centralized digital platforms that can automate approvals, notifications, and trip swaps, freeing schedulers for high priority tasks like getting a crew to a hotel and having that flight leave on time the next day. Reactive versus proactive scheduling. Crew planning is often reactive, responding to sick calls, flight delays, or reserve shortages, rather than forecasting based on historical trends or predictive modeling. Again, this varies by company, I'm sure. Solutions. Integrated AI. I'm a proponent of AI-driven predictive scheduling to anticipate staffing needs, rest requirements, and fatigue risk. Limited integration with employee well-being. Crew planning should account for rest, travel fatigue, and mental health. Working 110 block hours a month is too much versus being underutilized, especially on a multi-day pairing. Impact, it's going to increase fatigue, sick calls, and safety risk. So what is the solution? Well, embed wellness parameters into the scheduling software. I don't know who came up with 15 hours as we can call fatigue, but decrease maximum duty hours to 13 hours, a minimum rest of 10, and it is 8 hours behind closed doors in our hotels. Consecutive overnight limits, maximum of 3 to 4 days. I know that the company needs to continue to operate in a 6-day block, but the fatigue is so much that you're actually losing. Somebody should do a study of how much the company has lost by having to ground the plane because one flight attendant called out sick and there was nobody to fill her spot. So now 5 flight attendants and 2 pilots have to go to a hotel, and all of those guests have to be they have to be put in a hotel. It's amazing. Okay, so consecutive overnight limits maximum to 3 to 4 days rather than fund multiple Mental health insurance options. Rather than giving us mental health insurance options, give people actual rest so they can manage and have quality of life. Improve transparency and communication, solutions, real-time dashboards, and notifications explaining how trips were assigned, how seniority or preferences were considered, and options for swaps and open time pickups based on trips already assigned or a lack thereof. Our company does an incredible job with providing us with what's happening almost real time. Focus on reducing attrition rates. Placing motivated new hires on low-value trips only limits their growth and missed an opportunity to reduce attrition costs. The solution is incorporate rotation policies that mix junior and senior crew on higher value trips to distribute experiences, reduce fatigue on senior-only crews, and accelerate skills transfer. I'm sure that something that I have read and written and shared with you can be used to speak to the union to get buy-in. We're just not speaking the right thing for the union to take notice and focus on the priority of all the flight attendants.
So all what you have presented there is available. Still,
it's
somebody, available. Yeah, this is all, I would say, no-brainer in the sense of technologies. Their solutions are there. There are some examples in the industry doing exactly this, but still in the US seems to be difficult to just take some of these boxes. So what could be the reason? Because the solution and technology is all there.
When you've done a fantastic job in proving that, and if people would just go down a list and say, where are we failing? Where can we improve? Why are we not doing this? And just reading everything that you post it makes so much sense. Like, we can't just say, I can't afford it. Well, you can't afford to lose, what is it, $100 a minute for every minute that the door is not closed in the aircraft? That's insane. Now, if you have a whole crew that's been displaced for XYZ reasons because one flight attendant couldn't make it because she's too tired, we just lost more than $100 a minute. We just lost. So,
but so crew members sometimes go on strike. Sometimes also pilots go on strike.
Yes.
Have you ever heard about a strike from any union, not for better pay or better rest period, but for better technology?
No, because not everybody's focused on that. We come from so many different backgrounds that not everybody's focused on that. I have a marketing degree, but I'm an educated by life experience. So I'm hungry to learn about this, but more people want to complain that they want to have solutions to the problem.
But I would somehow expect from union leaders who are, at least I know airlines who involve their union representatives in the decision for a new crew management system, that they also have a certain know-how, what is technically feasible, what is available in the market, and that they even have their own shortlist. In the case the airline wants to implement a new crew management system, that would be our wish list. Please select one of those. Whereas maybe the airline says, no, we don't want to spend anything. We take the cheapest on the list, and then agreeing somehow. But it's somehow something I'm a bit missing. So I was never ever, since the last 8 years, contacted from a union representative. I remember 20 years ago, because I met somebody in a vacation camp, that he then contacted me at my other company. Can you please explain what is possible and blah, blah, blah. But usually it's never a union representative asking an IT vendor, hey, can you help us to improve our well-being? It's always coming from the airline. So this is somehow my request to unions, because you have a superpower. You can put some pressure on airlines, say, hey guys, you are not just improving your bottom line, you are also improving our well-being.
Well, and like you said in some of the articles that I read, some of the issues is that we have leadership that are only in their positions for 2 to 3 years, and there's no time for that real transformation to evolve and for the proof to be seen. And there's a hesitation for whatever reason. I think my company does a fantastic job, including the union. But again, it depends. The union is led by flight attendants. Each flight attendant has a different passion or understanding in a different topic. So you do have meetings among the union members, the leaders, they're all so different. That doesn't mean, and there's only enough time for a person to, it would be a full-time job for that flight attendant to stop being a flight attendant and just be a union representative, which they do sometimes. They're compensated, like I said, by per diem to focus on that. But it's a matter of the company is saying, come on, let's sit down and let's discuss this. Honestly, I've only been in the industry for 3 years, and I have seen a few blogs on this, and it really depends who the leader is and how they connect with the company, because they can do more harm than good. So again, we're wearing two hats. You're a flight attendant and you're also representing flight attendants. And sometimes the president is answering many questions. I don't understand why they're not attorneys leading the unions. Honestly, it's a lot. It's a lot.
But if, let's say, your union leader is approaching you, say, hey, here, Alba, we have somehow identified a great technology. It's maybe expensive in the sense of somebody in an airline IT procurement department has only planned a limited budget, and now they want to find a modus operandi to finance it. Would you be willing to spend, I don't know, 50 cents a month for the funding of this IT system, but it gives you a better lifestyle, better predictability, a better health, because it's tracking your cosmic radiation, it's measuring your fatigue, it's creating even much fairer schedules, everything you mentioned, it's balanced between the younger and the older, but it costs you every month across all flight attendants flying for this airline 50 cents. Let's say for a period of 3 years, just for the introduction, and then let's discuss with the airline how we finance in the future. Would this fly, or would the union say, no, that's not our business, the airline has to buy it?
That's an hour-long conversation you and I can have off this conversation, because I have presented something already, and there's no response in the email.
But it's 50 cents. It's 50
I know.
cents only.
Well, they're so busy. But yeah, I would love to discuss this off this meeting, because there's a chain, and we have an incredible union. I'll tell you, I love our union. Meet people. They love what they do. They serve us well. They're just limited in time. They're really, their leisure time is serving other flight attendants when they're not working. That's how committed they are. It's amazing. And the company has to have the time to also pursue that. I've submitted my own presentations to the company, and there was just no time to really get into it because they're just too overloaded. So one of the next point that I was going to make is companies need to create certain departments for things like this. Somebody completely dedicated to how do we communicate and stay in communication with the union. Here's one. And this next one, reform recommendations. Create an in-flight crew development and engagement department. What does that mean? Track peer-to-peer performances, monitor morale, and support learning opportunities. We are autonomous. Nobody is supervising flight attendants. In our company, we do something called a high five, which is like, hey, you did an amazing job. We had 3, the flight, we had to, deplane 3 times, and you still kept everybody happy. That's amazing. We have to go beyond that. We have to go where the company sees who is really invested in the company, not in tenure, but in motivation, in brand loyalty, and all those things. So why would this peer-to-peer feedback be a wonderful thing? Responsibilities would be collect post-flight peer review feedback with a digital or app-based system, identify crew members who consistently receive low feedback or display low morale issues, proactively reach out to those individuals for one-on-one check-ins to determine root causes, treat check-ins as learning opportunities and morale reinforcements, not punitive measures, Require an acknowledgement signature on feedback forms to ensure crew awareness and accountability. Remember the picture of the kind of the grumpy flight attendant and the smiling flight attendant? They're both the same age. That's what I'm talking about. Benefits. Creates a formal, this peer-to-peer review creates a formal structure for mentoring and professional development, something that could be used with unions to say, this is what we're dealing with. You guys are asking for more pay, you're asking for boarding pay, you're asking for all these things, but look at the heartbeat of the flight attendants. And so it's working as a team. So we want to reduce the us versus them culture by showing crew members that leadership actively supports them and provides data to guide targeted interventions to improve retention and team cohesion. That's a whole different department in the union, a whole different department. Operational commitment agreement. Purpose, align flight attendants, unions or informal agreements for non-union airlines and management on operational priorities and safety. The key elements, flight attendants commit to meeting operational needs for each assigned trip. Maximum duty period capped at 13 hours, ensuring rest and focus on safety. Encourages collaboration between crew and operations rather than bypassing assignments and creating last-minute staffing gaps. Another benefit is enhancing safety, compliance, and efficiency. Builds mutual respect between crew and management. Reduces operational errors and costly last-minute reserves. Reframe motivation beyond tenure, the third one. The purpose is to shift focus from purely senior-based perks to human-centered operational efficiencies. Implementation, crew perks. Again, seniority baseline bidding, ability to drop and pick up lines are sufficient to motivate performance. Remove unnecessary excessive block hours that create internal tension and reduce cooperation. Encourage junior crew to see value of staying at one airline long-term rather than seeking to start elsewhere. Of course, the benefits are it promotes gratitude and long-term retention, reduces internal conflicts over scheduling adjustments. Believe me, people might complain for like a day and then they say, all right, we'll just deal with it. This is how the airline business is. It changes all the time. So people will adapt. Support consistent, experienced crews for operational reliability and impart training expectations. The fourth one, senior crew membership incentives. Ensure that there's a knowledge transfer. There's skill building and motivation for new flight attendants. Imagine your first day on the job, you're 21 years old and you are told you are the lead because the lead does not want to be the lead. Somebody who's 5 years, that is just not right. I don't care if she's 21 or my age, 55. They should be a mentorship program. Implementation, the most senior flight attendant on each crew receives a stipend of, let's say, I don't know, a couple dollars extra for the trip for training and mentoring the FA with less than 2 years experience. Of course, there's going to be a peer-to-peer review at the end of the flight to ensure that training and mentorship duties are fulfilled and include the metrics into this in-flight crew development engagement department tracking systems for ongoing performance evaluations. There is no such thing as performance evaluation except for once a year and recurrent for flight attendants. We want to provide financial motivation to senior flight attendants to invest in the growth of new crew members. The job is repetitive for the most part, unless something happens, which it could, but they need to feel like they're growing. Everybody needs to feel they're growing within any kind of industry, and flight attendants are no different. So let's accelerate skill acquisition and confidence to junior crew, strengthen team cohesion and overall operational efficiencies. And lastly, additional operations and process recommendations, digital sick fatigue reporting, limit non-emergency pass days, balance trip assignments, and transparent dashboards, have proactive scheduling, and team feedback loop. So the outcome will be implementing the solutions aligns crew planning with both operational safety and crew well-being, reducing turnover, which means a lot of money down the drain, improving morale, that's great for business, and creates measurable costs and efficiencies. Seniority remains respected and rewarded, but motivation and performance are distributed across all levels, benefiting the airline, the crew, and ultimately the passengers. So the bottom line is training often focuses on compliance and standard procedures, but rarely reflects the real-life operational challenges. We want training to mirror, very important, training needs to mirror reality. We want to reduce incidents and errors, lower turnover, and be operational efficient and enhance morale and engagement. When we do this, aligning training, which does not happen as much as it should, with realities on the job, is not a cost. It's an investment that improves productivity, reduces risk, and strengthens the airline's brand. Those 3 pages of what the job requires, you have no idea as a flight attendant until you're actually on the plane what all you just invested a month and a half in learning. So transparent communication and morale and more a performance multiplier. When leadership communicates openly with pilots and flight attendants, the crew understands why decisions are made. So you inform the union, this is what we need to do at the company to survive. Please speak positively so that we can all grow here. Otherwise, you union members, along with the flight attendants and everybody else in headquarters, is done. We have to work together. We have to reduce confusion and resentment. Feedback loops allow early detection of issues, enabling operational adjustments before problems escalate. Transparency fosters trust and loyalty, encouraging crew to go above and beyond to meet operational needs. Joint awareness of scheduling constraints and operational priorities reduces, again, the us versus them tensions, aligning crew efforts with company goals. So we want to end this entitlement mindset. I will finish with the integrating the interdepartmental topics into in-flight training is when we are the first point of contact for passengers.
I don't see a slide. I see everything is great. Now it's coming. Okay.
This is the last. Flight attendants are the first point of contact for passengers and safety in the sky. Essentially, we are the airline's frontline first responders. Yet training programs often focus narrowly on interpersonal skills inside the cabin. CRM is quickly missed and working relationships are reduced to an acronym. Do your CRM, do your CRM. People just look at each other like, yeah, I'll see you in an hour or two. This leaves the crew unprepared for cross-departmental interactions and operational realities. The reason why I am where I am today is because I took the time to learn about cross-departmental interactions because my company provided that through the diversity groups, and I'm very, very thankful to them. So to take it, to wrap this up, help us foster meaningful connections and address the systemic barriers that really help prevent a fair quality of life for all the flight attendants. As frontline professionals and first responders, we need the company's commitment and support. It's 12 o'clock.
Right. No, I think that was a great overview. Are there questions from, interestingly, everybody who joined is still there. So we didn't lose anybody. That's good. So a question to the audience. Are there questions? Potentially they're all blown away. This is quite often. I was just posting, because we talk about crew member well-being and so on. I think plenty of people here in this call there, because they are working primarily in the OCC, they are not aware how they are somehow working against their own well-being. So I think that's also something which is important for people to finally understand. And that technology is not a threat, that technology is in fact preventing damages. Interestingly, you go to a doctor, they use technology to screen you, to make a surgery and all that stuff. So there we accept in medicine, okay, technology is a good thing. And then we go to an airline operations control center and then suddenly we have all forgotten. So I think it was a very insightful conversation. And again, I'm really questioning why it is so difficult in the US to just implement what is available and what is already implemented in Europe, in Asia, in South America. Really, this North American continent, something must be there so different that they believe, oh, we need to do it manually. We need to do it like last century. So that really, airlines are using system from 1964, 1970, 1973. I'm born 68. So if you have a system, so if a system is older than me and you expect the well-being from the system for the crew member, difficult. Yeah. So
I appreciate you opening the conversation because I love reading what you're doing and helping bring this information to light because it's very important. So thank you.
And thank you for the flight attendant view, because we continue next month. We will have the pilot's point of view. So David Good, who flew for several airlines, interestingly, his father had to work with this very old system from 1964 at his airline. And he is also focusing on changing the system where the aviation industry needs a human factor revolution. So also very close what you were talking about. And I'm also looking very much forward to it. So from tomorrow on, you can make your bookings. And I will share the recording with the entire Enigma community, and then hopefully our paths will cross also in person soon again, and not just on a virtual level. Thank you very much, Alba. Until we see each other again, please stay healthy and safe. And if you know somebody who is smart, positive, enthusiastic, and upbeat, just spread the word and let them join the Airline Crewing and Operations Enigma community in LinkedIn.
Always do. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.